Hey guys, how's it going? I'm ready for winter to kind of be over with. It's nice to be hibernating inside a garage, but it's getting a little old. Well, the only plus about it is, snow. We had a really heavy snowfall. The last one, I took out a couple of snow blowers. One's already done. You can't run them, and when they're frozen and stay on them, they have a tendency to smoke the belt. So that one was a fairly easy one. This one's not making out so good though. Apparently, I guess the plug popped out of this one, the drain plug, or fill plug rather. So it spewed all its oil out, and they kept running it till the motor just locked up dead solid. So that guy's done. It is a new machine, so we are going to order a new long block or short block for that guy and replace it. Definitely worth it. I think it has a couple of hours on it. Got power chute control and everything. So, well, back into the garage. Musty one auto repair. This is that donor door that I had for I had gotten at the swap meet, and the guy had like $5 or $10 on it, and at some point he just started giving everything away. So I went over there and scored my little prize and was all happy, and ran away with my door. And what I needed that for was the bottom section. As you can see, it's already been cut off and removed because the one that's on here was just totally rotted out. They have like a little frame. I don't know where the frame is. There's like another box that goes down inside here internally, and that's what the hinge kind of mounts to. Something like that. You can see the upper half of the frame there, and then there's a skin on the outside. So the one that I'm restoring, the box was okay, but all the skin on the outside was totally gone, and whatever was attached to here, which like some big ass rivets, were rotted out. So this door was on this was flapping in the breeze. So when I first got it, I just ran a weld down on each side of it back to that frame just so the door wouldn't get any more damage. But I had to restore the bottom of it. I was going to take the bottom of the skin with it too, but it's so compromised it wasn't worth taking. I figured I'd just go and make another one, which is what I did. So I'll go show you that right now. The outside, you can see the skin on the outside of it. That's just 20 gauge that I bent up and rolled up. I had a nice square edge coming down and around here, and I probably had about 1/8 of an inch gap, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be welded on the outside like that, but I wanted to grab more metal just to try to make that bottom hinge a little more sturdy, because it is kind of compromised. And for all sakes and purposes, if you look at the other one on top, that's somebody else's handiwork quite a while ago. So I guess it kind of matches, but I ended up, my welding on this was not that great because I did some swapping of my welders. And I ended up taking, I have two that I use pretty much. This one's an old Miller. This is like in the early 80s, if you had an auto body shop, this is pretty much what you bought for a MIG welder to use for repair. It's a 220 volt. I'm not sure what the max output of it is. It's probably 180, 175, something like that. Volts are 21, amps are 120, 130, something like that. So I ended up, this used to be on the bottle on gas, but it didn't ever perform all that well. I never got a really good weld out of it. I have a feeling it was somewhere in the system. It was probably restricting the flow of the bottle of the CO2 or the argon, and so I decided to switch this one over to flux core, and then I took the Lincoln that was running the flux core and again converted that back over to run on the bottle. And I think that's a better combination. That setup over there, it's got a little bit more power to it. I think that's 175 that one tops out at, I think. Same thing. I think amps is 130. So they're comparable to each other. Both have 4 power settings and then, a variable feed rate. So anyway, to make excuses for myself, whenever you do that and you're switching welders and you're used to one and you're not used to the other, I had to power up a little bit too high on this one, and I decided I was going to run a nice little clean bead right down there. Well, right up here, I just kind of blew the metal out all the way around, and it just ran right down. Of course, it gave me a hole about 1/4 inch wide by about 3/4 of an inch long, so I had to go and backfill it. Enough of my sob story, right? Anyway, so here's the bottom section that I sistered on from that other door. And again, the bottom was totally gone. There's that box that I'm talking about on the inside. You can kind of see there. You can see where I caught the hinge. Not the strongest of things, but again, it's much stronger than it was. I should have went a little higher because the metal up here was still kind of punky. Not much to catch to. As you see, I blew through in a couple of spots. So, and then I did fold the lip on the bottom. And when I made the patch panel, I made it so I can roll that bottom lip. It's across the front too. There and there. So that kind of makes it stronger because you're supposed to have that, skin roll around and catch. That's how it supports itself. But it looks pretty good. Unfortunately, the only thing I don't like is the fact that, the outside skin now has this shiny piece of metal on it when the rest of it has all the patina, we're going to call it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that rust and turn brown, kind of like, something like that is. And then once it does that, I may even try putting something on it to advance it so that I can put the wax on it and seal that in too with the rust color, and it kind of just match the rest of it. What else is going on? The other stuff on the inside, I didn't make a video because there's really nothing to show. When you're starting to chase wiring and all that kind of stuff, you really don't have much to show on camera, it's all just pretty much troubleshooting and chasing things. I did get the wiper motor that was in it running. It is a 6-volt motor, but it did pop the cover off. Cover pops off pretty easy. They're actually just kind of like the old master cylinders with a bail on top of them. You just pop the bail off and the cover came right off, and that gave me access to the motor. There you go. So you can kind of see it. So I just kind of jump started it by hand, and it took off, and then I took a pencil eraser where the brushes were and just let it, when it was running, stuck the eraser in there and kind of cleaned up the armature, and that seems fine. I took a potentiometer. I don't know, for people who don't know what a potentiometer is, like an old school radio has volume control. That's a potentiometer. Basically, it's a resistor that's adjustable from 0 to whatever. And I stuck like the smallest one I had in there, range-wise, which was probably like a 5K. And I dialed it into the wiper speed was more to my liking, and after I did that, that goes in series between, you have the switch, here's the switch. You have the switch and you take one of the wires off. You got power, 12 volts coming on one side, it used to be 6, and then 12 volts going out on the other. If you leave it running the 12 volts, it's gonna burn up the wiper motor. I mean, it runs real fast, but it's not gonna run real fast for a long time. So I put that potentiometer in between, and I dialed it in so that the speed looked kind of normal, and then I measured the voltage that I was getting across the switch, and it was around 8 volts, something like that. So then I took the potentiometer out and measured the resistance across that, and the resistance ended up being 1.5, something like that, ohms, which is very, very minute, not much resistance whatsoever. But so I'm going to replace that with something that can handle the heat that it puts off. This is a ballast resistor like you would find in an old Plymouth for the spark, point and condenser kind of setup, and for the coil they would run a ballast resistor. And if you look at this one, it says 1.6 ohms on there. So I'm just going to pop that right in line and run a screw in it and mount it underneath, and that should dial that wiper motor in just right. Basically, that's the resistance right there. You can see that spring. And that heats up. And kind of a better analogy is, so say this is your wiper motor, and this is your ballast resistor. The way a resistor works is you have to burn off some of the energy. So if it's in series, you have the wiper motor, say it's using 6 volts, and then you got to get something else to burn off the rest of the voltage before it returns to ground. And that's what this does. This is actually taking the other half of 6 of the 12 volts, and it burns it off as heat. You know, some kind of energy happens from the power. It has to go somewhere, so that's where it would go to, is heat, and that's that little wire on the inside of there. You know, heats up a little bit and burns off that energy. So that should dial that in and get that working for me. I started chasing a bunch of other stuff too, working on directionals. I put a new flasher switch in. When it's in there, you can kind of see it's reinstalled. I do not have the directionals working in the front. It goes, I'm not quite sure what the direction is, but the flasher kind of works on this. It's not like a, I'll say like a Ford, anybody who's familiar with it, where it's just got a 2-wire flasher, and what it does is it's got an element that heats up, cools off, pops the circuit open. When it cools down, it makes contact again and heats up and then pops off. That's how those things work internally. The way these work, they go from side to side. So you have power coming in the middle leg, and there's a leg on each side of it. It pops to one side, gets too hot, flips over the other direction, gets too hot, flips back. So what that does is it works the front directional, then it lights the rear directional. So they're kind of opposite of each other. They're not lighting up at the same time. So having said that, I'm having a problem where nothing is happening when you hit the directional switch, which you can see hanging right there. But if I run a jumper from the lead to the back side of the directional, it will start flashing and click like it normally should. So something's interfering with the path between there and the relay, and more than likely it is probably up in the switch. I sprayed a bunch of contact or like a penetrating oil, not contact cleaner. Let it try to break some of that, you know, the crud that's on the contacts off. If I can't get that one to come back, what I'm going to do is you know, of course my Horde has different things in it, and I have this one. I believe it's out of a later one, probably like my 67. And the only difference is it has the high beam, low beam switch kind of built into it. So instead of having 5 wires, it's got 7. But I should be able to use that. I think it works the same way, so I may just steal that whole component right out of there and keep with the old black housing on this one. I should be able to snake those out, snake the new one in, and go for the look. But more metal work? I got some more metal work done. Some anyway. Did the rear hatch. The hatch was floating and flapping in the breeze. And I took them and welded them back up into place. I don't know if you're focusing any good. But I just tacked them back to some sheet metal. And again, on the other side, this side at least still has the screws, but everything, there's like a plate that's behind it, but that's compromised too. That's flapping in the breeze. And again, made another kickstand like I had. Any light on it? Another kickstand on the hatch, and I can kind of lock it wherever I want, the same as I did with the treasure chest. And that seems to work out pretty good. I like those. Some guys are commenting that they're kind of shiny. Yeah, they are. Battery hold down. Made up a battery hold down for it. Piece of angle on top. Had to notch it in the center to kind of clear the little post. But that worked out pretty good. I left them a little tall with spacers on in case I get a battery that's a different size. I could still fit it in there, and I left about, I don't know, about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch on each side of it, so in case the battery's a little fatter yet too. And cable for the ground. Just starting to pick away at all the little things, you know. I'm waiting to put the motor back in because I have a shopping list coming, but I'm waiting on motor mounts. I want to replace these motor mounts before I go and put the motor back in. So that's kind of what that is waiting on, plus a plethora of other parts. I got new light assemblies coming, all the gaskets for the doors, parts for the gas tank, that kind of thing. Anything else in here? Yeah, I don't think so. All my gaskets for all around, I'm waiting on those. The one for the back window I'm waiting on. Got the lights. I just popped the lenses on and the the little bezels that kind of covered them. Put those on there. You can kind of see it's got the those amber bulbs on the inside of them, and that's how it would have been from the factory. They run a clear kind of lens and they put those on. So sort of jumping on the front bumper a little bit. That bracket's gurbled up. It looks like somebody probably wrapped a tow chain or something on there at some point right around here, and pulled it out of wherever it was stuck, and kind of hammered that bracket somewhat. So I may pull that off and just kind of get it back into some kind of recognition. If you guys can see it, see how it's kind of rolled up at an angle like that. And I don't think this side's not attached to anything at all. That's where the bolt should go. So hammer that back, getting a little punch list going up there. Stuff to do and stuff that needs to be done, and any parts I need to access. And that's really about it. Again, as I said, it starts to slow down somewhat when you start to, you know, chasing just the gremlins, you know. I think that back bumper is going to work out pretty good. It has the right look to it. There you go. How's that? And it's got the rust and the white on it, kind of like the front does, and it's got a nice bumper sticker. I do like that. So I don't know what I believe is first generation bay window, which is a bay window is the one that's just got one piece of glass in the front, like the blue and white bus, and they had those round kind of bumpers on them too. And so it would have been 68 through 72. I think 72 still has the round back bumper, and then it switches. But I don't know what these brackets are. I don't know, you know, kind of what we got going on here. If somebody tried fabricating it onto something else, or what the issue is. But you can see where somebody did some hacking. Both of them are hacked the same way. The stock bracket should look something like that. Kind of come up and out. So I should reiterate, this is a stock bracket for a splitty, not a stock bracket for a bay. So they may be the correct ones for a bay. I'm not quite sure what was going on with whoever carved them up. But unfortunately, I only have one of these, and I don't know if it's going to fit this bumper all that correctly anyway. So I have a feeling what I'm going to do is I'll just take these and cut these up and make my own kind of setup that attaches to the frame. I would like to set a tow hitch up on this one too, so I may just kind of do all that at the same time, and make a cradle for underneath the engine like the 67 has. Alright guys, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, thanks for everybody for watching, commenting, and subscribing. I really appreciate the comments. A little bit about myself. I'm dyslexic, so I apologize if I can't write long letters back to you. But I do appreciate and read everything that everybody writes. It's the nature of who I am, you know. So, alright guys, I'm going to shut you down. Again, thanks for watching. Take care.